Hey, how's it going? And welcome to the Never Lose Your Nerd channel. I'm Brandon. Today is the start of a series I'm going to start covering over the Dune book. Of course, never read it. To be honest, never heard of it. Shame to say. Whenever the trailers for the Dune movie came out, I heard a lot of people talking about it, how it was like the greatest novel of all time. It inspired a lot of sci-fi genre, especially Star Wars. I didn't know Star Wars. George Lucas got a lot of his inspiration from this book. A lot of stuff from Star Wars came directly from this book. Sand crawlers, spice is a big thing that's in Star Wars, and a lot of stuff nowadays. Spice is used for like drugs. Yeah, today is the start of that series. I'm going to cover like every 100 pages so I can, you know, make some content out of this and go in depth in it. So we'll get into that next. Like I said, before we get into it, shame to say I had never heard of this book before. I know one person I think got mad at me in the other video where I did the trailer. He was like, haven't read the books, buy. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Just being honest, I'm not going to lie to you and say I've read it when I haven't because I wouldn't know what I was talking about. And to be honest, I haven't been a big reader in my life. I've read like a few novels. I've read The Death and Life of Superman. I've read the Game of Thrones novels up to A Dance of Dragons, which I've read like half of that, but I'm going to wait to finish that before the new book comes out. So yeah, just giving you a little bit of background. I've actually read about 150 pages of the book, but like I said, I want to try to do like every 100 pages because the book is not that long. It's about 600 pages, so I can, do about 6 videos, get in depth. And that way I can finish, like, my plan is to finish the whole series. Since the movie got delayed till next year, I'll be able to finish all the books. So yeah, I'll be able to get into all of them. So the first part of this series, I am going to cover the first 100 pages, but I'm also going to do like an introduction, mainly of the characters, and we'll get into some of the plot, stuff like that. But I have a lot of notes. My daughter, like, ruined part of it, but it's okay. I was going to do this video last night, but my God, I was so tired and exhausted. Got home from work, so I got my coffee, doing a little morning video. So this will be up later in the afternoon. But yeah, let's get into it. All right. Well, this book was written in 1965, I believe. Frank Herbert, like I said. There's a bunch of books on this. I think in the main series, there's like 6 books. But like the overall, like a lot of people I think have like carried it on. There's like 12 of them, I think. So it's a lot of reading. At first, we're introduced to the Atreides family. They start off on the planet of Caladan. And we're introduced to the Duke Leto, which is the father. Which surprisingly, throughout this book, I found that he's actually a very good father. He's actually a good man. He's not like a tyrant. He's not like a big jerk to his family, which a lot of fathers are depicted as. So he's actually a very good person. So that's actually refreshing to see. We're also introduced to Jessica, which at first I thought it was his wife, but come to find out it's not his wife. She's what's called a Bene Gesserit, which I thought they're witches. I guess you could kind of say they're witches, but they're trained in certain kind of arts and to notice things very clearly and to study people and things like that. But I would still consider them kind of like witches. And then we get introduced to the Reverend Mother, but I'll get into that in a minute. But she's actually, they refer to her as like his concubine, basically like his partner, but he keeps the marriage. Well, he's not married because he wants other houses to think they still have a chance and a hope that, potentially they could still marry him. So he wants to keep that open so people will still work with him possibly. So I thought that was interesting. But it said they've been together for like 15 years. So I just think after that amount of time, you might as well just get married. Maybe they will. I don't know. Haven't got that far yet. And then we're introduced to Paul, which I'm pretty sure Paul is going to be the main person throughout this whole series. He seems like he's like the main protagonist. He's going to be the savior of the books, but don't know yet. We'll figure that out later too. A lot of the beginning of these chapters is they're talking about Arrakis, how they're packing up to move to Arrakis. It's a desert planet. There's basically a lot of perils there, talking about how dangerous it is. They don't know exactly how dangerous, just from what they've heard. I don't know exactly why yet they're moving there. They're taking over for the Harkonnens. It doesn't If I don't remember correctly, y'all can correct me in the comments. I don't remember exactly why they're taking over, why this family is there, then the other family takes over, maybe because the Harkonnens aren't doing a good job. Basically, just a lot of political stuff that I'm sure we'll get deeper into, which we have a little farther since I've been reading, but I said I'll cover that in the next video. Basically, they're taking over for the Harkonnens. The Harkonnens are like their mortal enemies. We're also introduced to the Baron, which I believe he's the leader of the Harkonnens, if I'm remembering correctly. And there's like these don't go into chapters. They're broken up. They read passages from certain things, and that basically breaks up the chapters. But in this book, it doesn't say like chapter one, two. It's basically like one book is a chapter, basically. It seems like, or like half of it is. We're also introduced to Freyr Rotha, which is the Baron's nephew. He doesn't really say much in this. He's kind of like there to observe and listen and soak it in. Supposedly, he's like gonna take over for the Baron whenever basically succeed him whenever he's done. We're also introduced to Piter, which is the Baron's mentat, which mentat seemed at first I thought he was a robot, but reading up, doing more research, AI and technology has been banned, so they're not. But the way he was acting, and then he got into a certain mode where he was acting robotic. But basically, they've been trained to do that. They've been trained certain ways. They're kind of like the Benny Gesserits, just in a different form. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Basically, in their part of the book, they're explaining, I guess they're basically explaining to us how their plan is going to go. So we follow this plan during the book, especially the beginning part of it. Their plan is to use the doctor, Dr. Huey. He's their main guy in there, which you actually see that. But they're also going to try to frame the mother, Jessica. So yeah, we get into that a little bit later in the book. Basically, their plan is to sabotage the Atreides when they take over. Like they're gonna have Yui the mole. They're gonna frame the wife, and then they have somebody else come in, which they're basically gonna try to destroy them from the inside. So it's a big elaborate plot and plan. Which I mean, you see it. You see the people talking inwardly. I think it makes you seem and believe that this one person is it, but maybe it might be another person. So they might be swerving us. Don't know yet. We'll figure it out. But basically, that's all we hear from them for right now. So I'm going to go back over some of the other stuff that was in here. Like I said, we also got introduced to the Reverend Mother. Hope I get this name right. Gaines Helen Mohaim. I hope I got that right. Probably not. But we're introduced to her, and basically she's there to test Paul, which this was kind of weird to me. She was saying, we're testing you to see if you're human, which at first I thought maybe they were testing him to see if he was a robot, but that wouldn't make sense because obviously they saw he was born, said making sure you're not an animal. So I'm not sure exactly what that means. I know all the Benny Gesserits went through it, like the Reverend Mother tested Jessica. So I mean, y'all let me know exactly what that means. I know I'm not getting it right. But at first, maybe I thought she was saying, well, I'm going to test you, make sure you're actually human, you're not a robot or something. So maybe I'm correct on that. Maybe I'm not. Y'all let me know. Basically, she tests him with the box. Well, you see it in the trailer for the movie too. He puts his hand on the box and says, there's pain. If you can withstand the pain, basically you pass the test. And she has something called the Gom Jabbar, which I thought the Gom Jabbar was the box, but it's actually the poison needle, which that was pretty interesting. Like I said, you see that in the trailer for the movie. So a lot of this stuff is in the trailer, which I know the movie they said is based on just this first book. So I'm sure, well, half of this book, I think. So yeah. So half of this book is going to be the movie. So that's pretty interesting. So basically, Paul, he passes the test. He feels the pain, but he pulls his hand out and he says he thought his hand was going to be gone. Like the pain he felt is basically, I'm guessing, is just in your mind. So if you pull your hand out, you die. But he passes the test just like his mom did. And mom was happy he passed it. And another thing I thought was interesting is they thought he was supposed to be a girl, a female, which I think the Bene Gesserits usually produce females, but he was a male. So I guess we'll get into more of that, but that's something that's, interesting about this that they always talk about. They always talk about it, especially when they get to Arrakis, that, he might be like the Messiah. A few other characters we're introduced to. We're introduced to Thurif Hawat, which he's the master of assassins. He's also like their main spy. He like sets up their networks and stuff like that with the spies. Of course, I already talked about that. I'm just trying to go through my notes real quick. I took a lot of notes so I could remember everybody's name, what everybody did. I also talked about the Mentat. The Mentats are humans trained to mimic computers, basically, because AI, computer technology stuff has been banned, which I don't know why, but I'm sure hopefully we'll get into it. We're also introduced to Gurney Halleck. He's the master of arms. He's the one who trains Paul. And if I remember correctly, I think Paul said like he liked him the most. Like, and Gurney's funny. Like he had a lot of jokes and stuff, and while they were training. So Gurney Halleck is a character I think I'm gonna like in this book. Of course, I always covered that. Another thing that came up is the CHOAM, CHOAM. It's the Combine Hanif Ober Advancer Mercantiles. My God, why did they make such a long, hard name to? I don't know how they came up with that name. But basically, they're the leaders of all the industrial stuff, like I guess, the leaders of everything that's produced, and they control a lot of the money and stuff like that. So it seems like they're going to have a big part of this. They basically, I don't know what you would compare them to. Maybe like stock, maybe like the Wall Street or something like that. They control a lot of the money and the manufacturing and distribution and stuff like that. So maybe that might be kind of what they are. And basically, if you're in good with them, you're pretty much set. You know, need to have good relations with the people who run it. And we're also introduced to Huey, which Huey has a bigger role to play in this, especially as I've gotten farther into this. I'll get into Huey more in the next video because he has a big part to play going further. We're also introduced to the Fremen, which they believe a child from the Bene Gesserit is basically, like I mentioned before, is basically going to be their Messiah, there to save them and free them. It's basically a prophecy, which I don't remember if the prophecy said that it was a male. I don't think it did. I think it just said a child from a Bene Gesserit would come. So that's why they actually like Jessica. They like revere her, which is actually shown earlier in the book whenever let me remember where my notes are. Yes, the head housekeeper is Shadowed Mapes. She actually gives Jessica what is called a crysknife to protect herself. And a crysknife is very sacred to the Fremen people. It's basically carved out from the teeth of the worms. And you can't take it off planet and you can't show it to anybody. Like if you unsheath it, it loses its power, I think. Or if it's away from the person, it loses its power. If I remember that correctly, like I said, correct me in the comments if I'm getting that wrong, but I'm just going off my memory of it, of what I do remember. The Shadow Mapes seem like she's going to be there to watch Jessica and kind of, like I said, they're kind of protecting Paul too, because if the prophecy is true, they need to keep them safe. Also introduced to Duncan Idaho, which he's basically the ambassador from the Atreides people to the Fremen, which the Fremen, like I said, they're believing in this prophecy, so they want to be in good with the Atreides. Again, I'll get into more Duncan Idaho in the next video I make because he comes in more reading along further. But yeah, Duncan Idaho we're also introduced to, which he also was granted a crysknife by Stilgar, which is one of the, if he's not the leader of the Freemen, he's one of the leaders. He's one of the heads of them. There was interesting where the guy was basically talking to the Duke. Like everybody was like, how can he talk to you like this? But it's like, well, we need to be good with them and their customs and stuff. We're on their planet. Well, the Freemen, I think, are native to this planet. So basically, he was okay with it. Good coffee. But yeah, we'll definitely get to more into Duncan Idaho. And Stilgar seems like a cool character, but it's basically like, no, you can't see the knife. You can't take it out. But basically, these things are very sacred. You're basically supposed to keep it hidden. Nobody's supposed to see it. You're really not supposed to use it. You're not supposed to take it out, or it loses its power. Or I think it degrades. I said, I don't exactly remember, but I think that's right. And then something very interesting that happened. Of course, there was an assassination attempt on Paul. I think it was called like a hunter-seeker. basically like a robotic thing came out of his headboard. That was crazy. So basically, there was an assassination attempt, and the way they tell it in the book, basically, it makes you think that it's the doctor that's controlling it, which it might be, but like I said, it might be something where they're trying to make it seem like it is, but maybe it's somebody else because they actually did find somebody dead with the controller. But I think Dr. Yui set that up, possibly. Don't know. There was an attempt on Paul's life, and then towards the end of where I read, is they basically made it set up, and then where they actually found a note, they found like something, they intercepted something that was probably meant to be intercepted, that basically made it look like, yeah, there was an assassination attempt, and made it look, then they suspected Jessica was the one who did it. But Duke doesn't want to believe that. They've been married all this time. Why would she all of a sudden try to kill him now, or his son? So that was pretty interesting. The assassination attempt on Paul, which Paul's not going to die. You already know that. But like I said, they intercepted the note, the message, and now they're suspecting the mother, Jessica, which they actually put Thurif Hawat on her, like to watch her. So that's basically where I'm going to wrap this up. Is basically Jessica is like a suspect now. They're going to be watching her, and yeah, said I'll get into the next 100 pages after this. Hope y'all like this review. Let me know what y'all think. If there's anything I missed, put it in the comments. Please don't spoil anything going forward in the book. But yeah, it's very good so far. It's definitely gotten more interesting the more I've read. Like I said, I'll get into that in the next video. If you would, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.